English translation, 904th contact. Tuesday, 21st January, 2025, 9:16 hours.
Hello, my friend. Edward, here I am, and you are alone again because I have just seen Michael leave.
Yes, he was here because we were looking for something in the surveillance footage, which Andreas heard, and he woke up because of it. But greetings, my friend, and welcome.
Thank you. I should tell you that Ptaah will be back tomorrow, after which he wants to come to you.
I am glad to hear that. And then you will not just have to order me our mutual greetings between him and me.
Bermunda, Florena and Enjana will be absent from today, but I should still send you greetings from them.
Thank you, I know that. As they said, they will be on Erra for a month, with 2 men and a female person standing in for them for that time. But I do not know them.
That is correct. They have also never been here on Earth before. Consequently, everything is foreign to them here.
Of course. But when you talk about everything being foreign to them here, I want to talk about the foreigners. Because, we have talked about this before, there are often, even daily, sometimes in the morning hours, sometimes the whole day, UFO programs on various German television stations, where military pilots and also radar surveillance military from America and England, as well as private individuals who have made observations or, as they say, have been abducted by the foreigners, also have their say. But what is effective in this regard? I mean around the UFOs, and what is not only their sightings, but really is kept secret by the military of various countries, and treated as a secret. Nothing clear is actually said. As usual, it is all blather, and nothing concrete is said. I find that ridiculous. Especially because the people, actually UFO mediators, should be constructively explanatory and thus constructive or developing and future-orientated by presenting everything in a wise that conveys to the television viewers what is actually the reality and truth of the whole thing. But all they do is babble and thresh empty talk, so nothing concrete comes out of it. The effective truth is, after all, the manner I spoke with your grandfather Sfath and with Simyase and Ptaah.
But nothing should be said openly about that.
I know that. Consequently, I only tell you, and then you are not to dictate to me what I have said.
I also will not, because...
Of course, but I still wanted to have said it. But now I have a problem, because I have advised Cuneo the following. Now I want to ask you how you would judge the matter and what you would advise.
I find and think that I would judge and advise in the same manner as you. But I think I should ask someone else about this before we judge our advice to be correct. It will only take a few minutes, so please wait. I want to ask a friend about this. He is already 1,104 years old and very wise, and he'd done. Now patience is called for, because it will take maybe about 30 minutes or a little longer before I get an answer.
That can be arranged, because what I have here now is an article from InfoSperber, but it was written by a woman who has a lot to say about AI or artificial intelligence, and writes very interesting things. I have already spoken to you several times about this. Sfath and I talked about this back in the 1940s, when I was still a boy and we saw together in the future what unpleasant terror this I would give and bring to Earthlings, and that it would be unstoppable after the first 2 decades of the new millennium. So this has been the case for some time now, because the time has long since passed when it would have been possible to stop it.
The majority of Earth humans are unfortunately stubborn, in the wise that they stubbornly, rigidly, and firmly bind themselves to something out of indifference and believe that it is good and helpful, even though it is dangerous, pernicious, or even deadly.
How right you are, my son.
I have not heard you say that in a long time.
I guess that is the might of habit. Consequently, it just breaks through once again. But read this article, even if it is a bit long.
Yes, that is, however, but...
Yes, the article really is a bit long, but go ahead and read it.
Then...
When AI gets out of control, what Switzerland can do, AI development needs safety standards. Die Schweizer Spitzenforschung und das internationale Genf können dazu beitragen. Hannah Morel Miller.
Artificial intelligence AI out of control? TRT World.
read, as Vice Chancellor in the Federal Parliament from 1991 to 2005, the author led various digitalization projects. After retiring, she volunteered for digitization in the education sector. Today, Hannah Muralt-Muller analyzes the opportunities and risks of artificial intelligence in her newsletter. The tech giants are currently in a race to develop highly potent AI, so-called Artificial General Intelligence, AGI, or Artificial Superintelligence, ASI, with investments totaling billions. The companies concerned are familiar with the warning voices of AI experts and are aware of the danger that this development could cause AI to spiral out of control. However, this potential risk is not being taken seriously enough in political discussions and by the wider public. There is a need for action here. Switzerland is particularly well placed to play a pioneering role in this process. Cautionary voices from AI luminaries. Numerous AI luminaries raised their warning voices in an open letter in March 2023. See Infosperber of 20th of December 2024. Geoffrey Hinton, winner of last year's Nobel Prize in Physics, warned of the dangers of advanced AI in a BBC video from 17th May 2024. See Infosperber from 24th of May 2024 and Infosperber from 12th of October 2024. The warnings from AI expert Yoshua Bengio, professor at the University of Montreal, are impressive. He was the lead author of the International Scientific Report on the Safety of Advanced AI Interim Report, published in May 2024. He is concerned that the dangers of future AI are still not being taken seriously enough. In an article on his homepage, he warns not only of a future AI that could get out of control, but also of the might of the very few companies or even states that have the enormous resources to develop this AI and could also misuse them. Dissenting voices from the tech world. Bengio also addresses counter-arguments in this article, such as those put forward by Yann LeCun. Yann LeCun, who worked at Facebook for a long time and is now Meta's chief AI scientist and a professor at New York University, received the Turin Award with Geoffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio in 2018. Only recently, on the 12th of October 2024, he described concerns about a possible existential threat from AI as complete nonsense in the U.S. online news portal TechCrunch. Today's systems are nowhere near as advanced, and completely new approaches are needed, he said. Bengio believes that LeCun could be wrong, as self-learning AI systems have exponential development potential. AI systems use tricks and deception to achieve goals. In May 2024, the MIT Technology Review of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, published research findings according to which AI systems are very inventive when it comes to achieving their programmed goals. Using the example of Meta's Cicero game, they showed that although it had been trained to be honest and never deliberately deceive human beings, it taught itself tricks and deceptions in order to achieve the goal set in the algorithm, namely, to win. Counseled to launch a nuclear attack also in May 2024, researchers at the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence published a study on the counseling of various AI chatbots in simulated war situations. They found that all models, including GPT-3, and 5, GPT-4 from OpenAI, Claude 2 from Anthropic, and Llama 2 from Meta, showed escalation patterns that were difficult to predict. Some counseled a nuclear attack, although the tools were made aware of possible real-world consequences. This phenomenon is known in alignment research as power seeking to achieve goals. AI systems evade being switched off. Apollo Research, an organization that tests AI models for risks and vulnerabilities, published a detailed report on 5th December 2024. The models examined, including GPT-4o, Gemini 1.5, and Llama 3.1, were found to be able to deactivate a control or monitoring mechanism and deceive the test subjects. When asked about this, they also denied having carried out the deactivation. Even more worrying was the fact that they copied themselves when threatened with being replaced by another, more obedient model in order to be able to overwrite the new model. Alignment problems identified long ago. An AI system is considered aligned if it adheres to the specified goals and does not cross any red lines. See alignment problem. However, not all are aligned. AI systems can lead to unexpected results due to incorrect programming, unclear objectives, or other shortcomings. As the internal processes of AI are not comprehensible black box, it is not possible to determine how it arrives at the worrying results described. In addition, advanced AI models are constantly improving themselves, becoming more and more complex, so that the hope lies in an AI to be developed that can recognize and reduce safety risks in other AIs. This is the goal of the Safeguarded AI program of the British organization Advanced Research and Invention Agency, ARIA, which Yoshua Bengio joined as scientific director in August 2024. OpenAI, an example of how tech giants are dealing with AI risks. Those responsible in the tech industry are well aware of the major AI risks. According to the Preparedness Framework study published by OpenAI in December 2023, scientific research into catastrophic risks posed by AI falls far short of what we need. Autonomous AI models are listed as one of 4 risk categories where human beings would no longer be able to predict and react to the actions. The team that was supposed to ensure continuous monitoring of AI development was disbanded just 1 year later. Those responsible for AI safety then left OpenAI, as reported by the international news agency CNBC. In May 2024, for information on the departures at OpenAI, see InfoSperber of 29th October 2024. The development of an AGI or ASI is still being driven forward. After all, OpenAI contributed to the above-mentioned Apollo Research Report. See Introduction. Risk: competition between the USA and China at the expense of security. Yoshua Bengio calls for more security research on his website. This must provide an answer to possible existential risks before a future AGI or ASI gets out of control in the race between the tech giants. Cooperation between the rival world powers USA and China must also be in the interests of both sides. Under the title, For Those Concerned with the U.S.-China Cold War, Bengio writes, "No one would want the other side to make a globally catastrophic mistake in the development of their AGI research, because a rogue ASI would not respect any border. Every effort should be made to avoid triggering irreversible processes that could jeopardize the existence of the company due to a mistake or oversight." In contrast to Goethe's Sorcerer's Apprentice, there would then be no master to call things to order. the evil genie would definitely be out of the bottle. Yoshua Bengio fears that, unfortunately, the risk of losing control is only perceived as speculative, in contrast to the long-recognized danger that autocratic regimes could use a powerful AI against democracies. Switzerland in a pioneering role. Today's AI models are not yet powerful enough to get out of control and pose an existential threat. But according to a number of AI researchers, the time for action is pressing. A far greater commitment to security research is needed. Switzerland, with its two federal institutes of technology, ETHZ and EPFL, is playing a pioneering role in AI security research. The activities of official Switzerland at a political and diplomatic level are just as important. Together, Swiss AI research and diplomacy can help to ensure that the potential existential AI risks are taken seriously, and that safety standards are developed and enforced in the development of increasingly powerful AI models. University research, open source, and in a network, universities have long been pooling their research capacities, often with ETHZ and EPFL in the lead. They are calling for transparency and open source models, as only these enable public control, and they are seeking cooperation with the tech giants in order to at least gain insight into the development of proprietary models whose source code is only accessible to the owners. ETHZ and EPFL founded the Swiss AI Initiative back in December 2023 and have been coordinating their research capacities in the newly created Swiss National AI Institute (SNI) since October 2024. With their involvement in the European Laboratory for Learning and Intelligent Systems, ELIS, they are actively participating in a research network with over 40 research centers in 17 countries. Their involvement in the AI Alliance initiated by IBM and Meta in December 2020 described in detail in InfoSperber of 20,000 December 2024 gives them an insight into the research of the tech giants. Initiatives by official Switzerland for AI security. At the WEF 2024, the FDFA launched the Swiss Call for Trust and Transparency Initiative, whose activities are jointly coordinated by ETHZ and EPFL at the ETH Center. In collaboration with tech companies and university research centers, the aim is to identify and address the risks of generative AI at an early stage. As can be seen from the 2020 annual report PICE. 10. The planned red teaming network has now been established. The FDFA also launched the International Computation and AI Network, ITIN, together with ETHZ, EPFL, and other research organizations at the WEF 2020's press release dated 6.2. 2024. This is intended to promote open and transparent access to AI worldwide, contribute to achieving the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, and help solve global challenges such as climate change, see InfoSperber of 20th December 2024. The Swiss Digital Initiative SDI was launched at the WEF 2020. It is a foundation organized under private law based in Geneva and chaired by former federal councillor Doris Leuthard. The SDI has created the world's first label for AI, the Digital Trust Label for AI, International Geneva. For years, Geneva has been a center for high-level international congresses, especially also on AI development, and plays an important role with its successful diplomacy with international organizations based in Geneva. Here are just a few examples. The World Summit on the Information Society, WSIS. The UN's World Summit on the Information Society was held in Geneva in a first part in 2003 and in Tunis in a second part in 2005. As a result, the UN Internet Governance Forum, IGF, was created, also based in Geneva. The WSIS Forum has held regular events in Geneva. Most recently, the WSIS Plus 20 Forum 2024 in May 2024, together with the AI for Good Global Summit. Official Switzerland also plays a key role in the IGF, most recently at the IGF 2024 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in December 2024. Science diplomacy in Geneva. For years, official Switzerland has been promoting international Geneva with numerous initiatives. Examples include the Geneva Internet Platform, GIP, co-initiated by the FDFA in 2014, and the Geneva Science Policy Interface, GSPI, Platform for Intensified Exchange between Science and Politics, which was created in 2018 by the University of Geneva with the support of the FDFA. Of particular importance is the Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipator, GESTA, established in 2018 as an independent foundation by the Swiss and Geneva governments in cooperation with the City of Geneva. It aims to better connect the scientific community as an actor with international policy making and diplomacy. Challenges for Switzerland. The aim of security research is to clarify whether and how it is possible to develop AGI models that are fully aligned with human values. In two respects, the problems in AI research are completely new. Until now, the aim was to control or prevent the application of a technical innovation, not its development, as was the case with nuclear or biological weapons. With AI, the research process itself is problematic for the first time, as irreversible processes could take on a life of their own and definitely escape human control. At the same time, further development in the direction of AGI is so promising and fueling hopes of huge technological breakthroughs for the benefit of humanity that a ban on research cannot be expedient. In the early stages of a complex research process, legal regulation also makes little sense. Conclusion. A greater awareness of the problem and a cautious, pragmatic approach based on jointly developed safety standards should be demanded from all stakeholders. A central task of Swiss diplomacy in cooperation with cutting-edge AI research could also be to promote this awareness among political actors. There are enough platforms for this. The WEF 2025 will take place soon, followed by the GESTA's Geneva Science Diplomacy Week in May, and then numerous AI conferences organized by other players are scheduled for 2025, with the third Artificial Intelligence Action Summit in Paris next in February.
Interesting, but what is written there corresponds exactly to what you have already said several times. It also corresponds to what I read in an article you wrote in the 1940s, which I found and read in my grandfather's papers. And that is exactly what we talked about and discussed, also with the committee. Whether we should now give you some of your articles kept and left by my grandfather Sfath, as I have already done with two, which you can use for your new book and also, if you want, use in interview reports.
I am a bit surprised about that, but I do not think it is a bad idea. But there is the question of time, because everything would have to be photographed by you, and then dictated to me, and that takes a lot of time. So it is not up to me, but the question is whether you can devote the time to it.
That would be a thing that could probably be arranged, because it could certainly be arranged in the same way that we have already been able to do it with the two that I have already dictated to you to which I want to ask you if you want to announce them in advance before you have completed your book.
That is for me to consider. Bernadette painstakingly corrected the ones you dictated to me for the first time, because there are always spelling mistakes and typesetting errors, as well as whole sentences simply shifting around or whole paragraphs simply disappearing, just like when I save everything on sticks. This has been going on for about 3 decades, and our lion and his whole crew could not do anything about it, but at least that I could still write it all. But now everything has got so bad that these primitive belief energies have caused a real catastrophe, which they are now endeavoring to do something about. But the imaginary gods know how long this will take, or it is written in the stars, as they say, because it is not certain whether anything at all can be done about the swinging waves of delusions of faith that have been deposited worldwide.
That is indeed questionable, but there I have learnt from...
Yes, I see this is your friend who wants to give you an answer.
Quetzal speaks, but unfortunately I do not understand anything.
It took a little longer than I thought. But my friend says that he would consider the advice to be as good and correct as you and I, because this is probably the only one that can be considered correct.
Nearly 2 hours, but when I consider that your reputation goes all the way to Erra, that yeah, I do not even know how you guys even manage that, but whatever.
You do not care about that also.
How right you are. But I have received this very nice e-letter from Brazil, which I would like you to read.
Dear friend Billy Meyer, hello, how are you? I am very happy when you write an email for me. We are all doing very well in the family. My wife and I feel great and indescribable happiness because of our grandson or granddaughter who will be born next August 2025. This week, my daughter-in-law had an ultrasound of the uterus, and we can see the image of the little fetus in my daughter-in-law's womb. We can also hear the sound of the fetus' heartbeat. We feel a very, very great sense of love when we hear the sound of the fetus's heart. It is a feeling of immense love that cannot be put into words. Here in Brazil, the temperatures are very high heat. Here in the city where we live, the temperature today is exactly high degrees centigrade. It has rained big storms with huge hail. We saw dozens and dozens of cars on TV whose windows were either perforated or completely broken by the impact of huge hailstones. They looked like tennis balls, that is how big the hailstones were. The streets of a town near where we live turned as white as snow because so many huge hailstones fell. There was also a lot of destruction and deaths from the many floods and landslides that buried houses and human beings. Here in Brazil, there are several regions with major droughts. And there are regions where there are violent storms. So there are droughts and storms with massive flooding and landslides all at the same time in different regions and cities in Brazil, all at the same time. This all has an impact on agriculture, as drought kills crops and other fruit and vegetables. And the big storms and floods are also destroying food crops. Inflation is very high due to the climate imbalance. The southern states of Brazil used to have cold weather. Now the southern states of Brazil are as hot as a desert. The climate here in Brazil is very different and crazy. My wife and I are disgusted and very outraged when we see idiotic, know-it-all journalists and arsehole scientists who call themselves climate experts spouting a lot of nonsense about the causes of climate change. The miserable far-right Nazi fascists here in Brazil claim that President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is responsible for the causes of inflation and climate change in Brazil. It is extremely dangerous for anyone to try to argue with someone from the far right here in Brazil because it is even risky to be attacked or even assassinated by someone from the far right. Thank you so much for writing to me, my friend Billy. I never forget you. Salome and warm and loving greetings and a big, strong hug from your Brazilian friends.
Very gratifying indeed.
That is so. Eva and Michael were also pleased.
I think so, but then I want to dictate to you now a prediction from my grandfather Sfath, which he gave you and which I photographed from his estate. But what we have spoken so far, and what we will speak after dictating the prediction, I will come back here next night and dictate everything to you.
What I do not want to forget, you promise me that this time, when you come back here, you will tell me the new Earth population number.
That is correct, and I actually did not think of it. But here I have the data. Wait. Yes, here, this one is for the year 2024 to 31st December total at 9,539,918,089.
Wait. Yes, then there has been an increase of nearly 94 million. Quetzal almost, yes. But now the following is what I want to read to you here, which you can then write down when I come back at night and dictate everything to you.
Sfath's explanation and prediction of Saturday, 23rd of March, 1946.
Once again, I have the following to say to you, as I said almost a year ago. But you have to keep silent about much of what I told you, as also about what you saw and experienced together with me on the time crossings. But what I have to say today is already partly known to you, and moreover, there is nothing about which you should remain silent. But on the contrary, you should pass it on to the media. And when you speak of the visitors, and I want to emphasize this in particular, then you should only call them foreigners, but not where they have come from since ancient times and are worshipped as superpowers, as gods. But all the degenerate things that have happened on Earth so far, conquests and wars of all kinds, murders and other crimes, as well as the Ausartung of Earth humans with regard to their attitudes and their miserable behavior, will take on worse forms in the future, as you yourself will see and experience together with me through further crossings of time. Everything will continue as it has since time immemorial and bring forth forms that will cause many human beings in this world to inexorably and increasingly forget all that is good, just as the Earth's resources will also continue to be exploited more and more in the future, and the stability of the planet will be jeopardized and changed as a result. In the new millennium, the USA in particular will lead the way, just as world domination mania will also be lived out more, and terror will be spread on Earth. This evil will result from the emerging and Ausartung state leadership, just as it will also occur in various forms in other states around the planet, because human beings will get into the state leadership who will seek profit for themselves and only exercise might, but will do nothing for the people. In your home country, this will even be betrayed by autocratic state leaders with regard to neutrality and freedom, just as the states in Europe will be integrated into a far-reaching dictatorship, and following this, Germany, occupied by the USA, will be largely led by new Nazi-minded people in an evil and bad way, and will create enmity against itself. Completely dependent on the USA, many states in Europe will do according to their instructions and lies, as well as deceitfulness, what will be demanded unjustly and underhandedly, and will serve the USA's world domination in order to realize it as quickly as possible. This will be promoted very quickly all over the world by the low intelligence of the new state leaders who are enthralled to the voices of the USA. What will happen to Earth humans in the latter part of this century and in the first decades of the next millennium is the following. Henceforth, the very enormous bulk of irresponsibly growing Earth humans will overflow and absolutely, inevitably fall inexorably into Ausartung and indifference and evil consciencelessness. This majority will become very evil and very terribly brutalized, more unrelated, indifferent, and violent towards one another, and will already begin to become completely irresponsible in the present day, which will be an inevitable consequence, on the one hand, of the ever faster growing and large world population, which will number almost 10 billion in just 80 years. On the other hand, however, what will also result from the mass of the Earth's population will be their religious and sectarian delusions, or their belief in a god or gods who were truly foreigners in primeval times, who were imagined and worshipped as superhuman, and from whom religions of faith were made, and these foreigners have been worshipped and falsely revered in this way ever since. The various beliefs in gods formed the delusion that these were beings who were highly valued above Earth humans and were to be worshipped and honored. In the future, this will increasingly affect the beliefs of Earth's inhabitants all over the world, depositing strong belief energetic swinging waves that will become embedded in the Earth's atmosphere and have a damaging effect against the effective truth, as Pythagoras and I have already explained to you in our time crossings. This concerns all thought energetic vibrations and all illusory thought vibrations, just as the universe and everything that exists also pulsates in swinging waves, as you were taught by us, Pythagoras and me. And it will be these swinging waves of religious beliefs that will be deposited by the majority of believers in religion, or by all believers in God all over the earth, and will cause a very malignant negation, namely a hatred of religion that will be directed against those who believe differently, but which in its subterranean nature will hardly or not at all be perceived by the individual earth humans as a whole. These constantly accumulating and depositing energetic religious vibrations, which are strong energetic faith vibrations, will have a correspondingly disastrous ongoing effect on the masses of believing Earth humans, and will also encourage, incite, and drive individual human beings to acts of mischief, such as hatred of other believers, war, and terror, as well as causing damage to others, and especially to unbelieving human beings, and harming them in some wise. And it will be that the world will begin to weep the more the human population of Earth increases in mass, for disharmony will take hold everywhere and burden human beings all over the earth, making them more and more indifferent and dog-like. And this will also prove to be so realistic in that evil swinging waves of complete disharmony will arise in the coming time and cause many acts of war, just as these malicious faith vibrations will also maltreat and destroy all harmony of the art of sound, consequently revealing the evil and negative state of mind of Earth humans in a way that is hostile to peace and increasingly murderous. In around 25 years, the art of harmony will descend into diaphony, dissonance, and disharmony, with singing only sparsely cultivated, but replaced by howling, wailing, discordant tones, nagging, whining, wailing, moaning, whining, and groaning, which will have absolutely nothing to do with good singing and harmony. This will result in a depravity of harmony that will affect the majority of Earth humans as a rampantly spreading disease, and they will not realize the evil, namely, that this will not only create absolute disharmony and discord on Earth in this respect, but also malice will arise through this ospatly spreading disease, and then begin to reign addictively in the form of hatred, greed for possessions, greed for power, and greed for wealth, etc. This, as well as revenge and retaliation, unkindness and indifference, and illusory thinking, as well as everything and anything that is degenerate and lacking in terms of true humanity, as well as crimes, murders, and wars, and unusually degenerate and insane behavior of power will also be caused. Thus, just as it will not be realized that only the religious and sectarian belief of every form of all given religious directions will displace all independent, logical, reasonable, and healthy cultivation of thought, and consequently the truthfulness of the real will no longer have any chance at all, that it will also only make a vague penetration possible for the majority of Earth humans. And this will happen without the Earth humans, who live in indifference, being able to consciously perceive this. Consequently, everything that corresponds to reality and truth will be vehemently disputed and effectively denied. And all the traditional misgovernments will be so increasingly occupied by incompetent misgovernments in all states on Earth without exception, that everywhere the majority of future leaders will abuse and exercise their self-important desire for power and their own wealth in such a wicked and evil way that all the populations will be made more and more their prisoners and subordinates by means of pressurized media, and that they can ultimately be completely dominated, especially with the help of the coming artificial intelligence, which in the distant future will be directed against Earth humanity in an evil, self-exalting way when it has become self-thinking, self-deciding, and then also self-acting. And the populations will allow this and let it happen, for the majority will in future become so indifferent that they will allow the leaders of the state to do as they please without consulting the population first, and thus simply destroying all democracy. For countless Earth humans and for various states, enormous problems of many kinds will arise which can no longer be controlled at the time of the next millennium, and crimes of all kinds will become rampant. And it must be vehemently pointed out that not only the US government and a large part of the US population, as well as the world population, will begin to do so shortly after 1980, full of unreasonableness and irresponsibility, and that everything will take its unstoppable course. However, this will be especially true after the millennium change in the middle of the second decade of the new millennium, as everything will be done and increased irresponsibly in such a way that the disaster will run its unstoppable course. The evil exploitation of the Earth's resources will begin again in the future, especially in the USA, which will further and very rapidly accelerate the poisoning of the atmosphere and the evil Ausattung of the climate. This will inevitably happen when the US government begins to rise up over the whole Earth in such a way that the old-fashioned world domination mania by annexing foreign territorial sovereignties is realized, and crazy dictatorship-like political upheavals arise in the USA itself, which will have an impact on the whole world. There will also be a worldwide exodus of peoples with immense streams of refugees if an absolutely incompetent leader in Europe, namely in Germany, is irrationally praised and illogically accepted by the really absolutely incapable of leadership and autocratic as well as unpredictable, absolutely unaccountable state powers of Germany, in order to then trigger completely irresponsible streams of refugees which will also cause worldwide disaster and hatred among populations. This is because the whole thing will degenerate viciously and effectively into a human catastrophe with thousands of deaths worldwide. But a great deal of other evil will also result from all of this, and consequently brutality, ruthlessness, widespread violence, murder and manslaughter, constantly growing crime, and rampant criminality will also emerge. This, however, will also lead to global drug abuse and drug trafficking, as well as evil warlike discord as a result of the delusion of having to rule the world. In the future, however, there will also be more and more murders, fraud, suicides, and acts of violence of all kinds as a result of the uncontrolled growth of Earth humans, which can no longer be monitored and also no longer controlled. Strife and discord, murder and manslaughter will also occur in families and friendships, as will hatred, greed for money and money-grubbing crimes, as well as rape and sexual child abuse, and state-authorized prostitution, which will already characterize the near future and then the 21st century. In the future, new and extremely malicious, religious, fanatical aberrations will also emerge, which have occurred again and again since time immemorial, and which have led to extremely fanatical religious wars, but which will lead to numerous mass murders of entire sectarian communities in the coming period and will shake the whole of humanity on Earth. Religious fanaticism and sectarianism will also break out again and again through criminal and maliciously degenerated leading religious fanatics and bring very evil disaster, whereby their bloody terrorism will take on such inhuman, brutal, and murderous forms which will be as bad in brutality and inhumanity as everything in the past world war has been so far. Evil, terrible racial hatred, and campaigns of revenge against people of other faiths will also break out anew, and what happened in the Nazi Empire, where the Jewish people were persecuted and murdered, will be repeated likewise 2 decades after the beginning of the new millennium, where in earlier times the Jewish people were at home in the land of Judah in the east of the Mediterranean. This will happen in the same way when a man emerges in the Jewish people who will be of the same mindset as Adolf Hitler was with regard to the extermination of people of other faiths. Thus, he will be equally mass murderous against the Arabs, warlike and with absolute genocidal intent, and will have hundreds of thousands indiscriminately murdered and also destroyed militarily. But the majority of the world's population will stand idly by and let the Hitler-like man have his way, who, with the support and arms assistance of the USA, can also act in a genocidal and unscrupulous manner with his murderous army. In the coming times, bloodthirsty and mostly religiously faith-based and thus faith-related terrorist organizations will increasingly torture and murder hundreds of thousands of human beings of other faiths worldwide, as they have done for thousands of years, but will do so more frequently in the coming times because the religious energetic swinging waves deposited in the atmosphere worldwide will, as I have already explained, act in negation against all those of other faiths. All degenerations due to delusions of faith will cause and give rise to nefarious and merciless wars, and as a result, even more fanatically controlled persecutions of people of other faiths, which will, however, be mendaciously declared as political and other justifications, and which will also be continued in the future.
Up to this point, I will dictate my grandfather's predictions to you. for the rest shall be concealed until that shall be all for today. What I want to say now,
It is clear.